They say she wears red, not the red of roses, nor the red of a setting sun, but the deep, unyielding crimson of sorrow, steeped in centuries. Her veil flows behind her like a whisper of old grief, torn and mended 1,000 times. This is Al-Qarisi, the fever bringer, the breath stealer, a spirit feared in the dark hours before dawn. She walks when the world sleeps, and the night is at its stillest. Her bare feet make no sound. Her shadow does not follow her, for shadows themselves shy away from her presence. Her hair is long and tangled, a web of threads that glisten faintly under moonlight. They say each strand is a stolen fate, taken from those who never lived to see their dreams. She smells faintly of iron and wet earth, like a grave after rain. It is in the houses of new mothers that she lingers. She slips in through windows left unlatched, or through cracks in the walls, too small for any human to pass. And once inside, she does not rush. She waits. She listens to the breathing of the child, the weary sighs of the mother. Then, with a hand cold as winter water, she reaches for her prey. Her touch brings fever. Her breath steals breath. And those who see her face say her eyes hold nothing. Not malice, not mercy, only endless hunger. But Al-Qarisi is not without her weaknesses. She fears the bite of flame. She shrinks from the breaking light of morning, and she cannot stand against the old protections passed down through generations. So mothers hang scissors above the cradle. The sharp iron points ward her away. They tie red ribbons to the child's wrist to confuse her with false threads of fate. Some hang the teeth of a wolf, for the wolf is a hunter she dares not challenge. And there are the songs, old lullabies, sung softly in the dim light. They are not just for the baby. They are spells, woven in melody, that keep her from crossing the threshold. In those songs there is hope, a defiance of darkness, a promise that the living will guard their own. They say Al-Qarisi still wanders, following the scent of birth and the sound of crying. But in every village her name is spoken with warning, not in fear alone, but as a reminder to keep the fire lit, to close the shutters at night, and to sing. For in the end, it is not just life they protect. It is the fragile, flickering light of hope, the one thing even Al-Qarisi can never steal. In the dim glow of dusk, the Oghuz plains stretch endlessly under a sky brushed with the last colors of the day. The wind moves softly through the grass, carrying the scent of faraway fires. Shadows lengthen, merging with the earth, until they become one with the coming night. And among those shadows, once, there was a figure unlike any other. He was taller than 2 men, broader than a warrior's horse. His skin was as dark and hard as forged iron, and in the center of his forehead, a single eye burned like an ember stolen from the heart of a forge. This was Tepegos, born of a water nymph, yet cursed by fate. His life was shaped by whispers and omens. The stories say that when he first cried as an infant, the mountains echoed back in fear. As he grew, no weapon could wound him, no arrow could pierce his hide, and no shield could withstand the weight of his blows. His voice was a storm, rolling, booming, impossible to ignore. Temper was the same, quick, fierce, and without mercy. Villages spoke his name only in hushed tones, as if the wind might carry their words to his ear. For a time, the Ogas tried to appease him. They offered cattle, grain, and gold. But Tepegos wanted more. He demanded lives. One by one, brave men rode out to face him, and none returned. The plains grew quieter. Fires burned lower at night. Mothers pulled their children closer when the wind howled across the steppe. And then came Basset. Not a giant, not a spirit, a man, born of flesh, blood, and will. He carried no weapon of iron, for he knew iron could not harm Tepegos. Instead, he carried the sharpness of courage and the weight of an oath. They met as the sun bled into the horizon. The earth trembled with each step of the giant. The air thickened around them, charged with the heat of an ancient grudge. Tepegos laughed, a deep, rolling sound that seemed to shake the grass. "Another offering?" he growled, his single eye narrowing. But Basset did not flinch. "I am no offering," he said. "I am your end." The clash was not of equals, but of wills. Tepegos struck with hands like boulders, shattering the ground. Basset moved like wind between the blows, his steps guided by both fear and purpose. He aimed not for the hide, but for the eye. The single burning eye, the one place where the giant was mortal. And when the moment came, Basset struck. Not with iron, but with the destiny he had carried in his heart since birth. The giant roared, a sound that split the sky, and staggered back. The plains seemed to hold their breath. When the dust settled, Tepegos lay still, his shadow no longer falling across the land. Basset stood alone, the horizon stretching wide before him. The Ogas would tell this story for generations, not simply as a tale of victory, but as a reminder that courage can wound even the strongest armor. And in the quiet that followed, the wind moved through the grass once more, as if the plains themselves sighed in relief. Before the Oghuz, before the Khans, before iron touched the soil, there were the Itbarak. They roamed the frozen steppes when the world was still young, when the wind carried the howl of beasts across endless white plains. Neither fully wolf nor fully man, they were born of two worlds, yet belonged to neither. Their bodies were strong, broad-shouldered, and tall, their faces shadowed by fur, their eyes gleaming with an amber fire. When the moon rose full, the Oghuz whispered prayers, for they knew the Itbarak would gather beneath its light. But these gatherings were not curses, they were remembrances. They howled not in pain, but in memory. Memory of an age when humans and wolves hunted side by side, bound by respect, not fear. Their voices rose into the night, blending with the cold wind until the very stars seemed to tremble. The Oghuz warriors feared them, for the Itbarak were strong enough to tear a man from horseback. Their claws could shred leather and iron alike. Their teeth were blades, but strength was not their only power. The Itbarak could vanish into the snow as if the earth swallowed them whole. They knew the language of the wind and the tracks of prey before they were even made. A single warrior could stalk a caravan for days without leaving a trace. Some say they were born of ancient shamans who sought to become wolves to survive the great ice. Others claim the wolf mother of the steppes blessed them, choosing them as the keepers of the balance between predator and prey. To the Oghuz, they were monsters. To themselves, they were guardians. They hunted only what they needed, and when they killed, they honored the spirit of the fallen. There is a tale of an August hero who fell into a frozen river. Instead of leaving him to die, an Itbarak dragged him out, lay beside him through the night, sharing its warmth, and left, without a word, when the sun rose. The hero never spoke against them again. But peace between men and the Itbarak was fragile. As the Ogas grew in number and spread across the land, the Itbarak's hunting grounds shrank. Forests were cut. The herds they depended on were taken. War followed. Battles between mounted warriors and the wolf clan turned the snow red. It is said the last great fight happened under a blood moon, and the howls that night were so loud they echoed for 3 days. When it was over, the Itbarak vanished into legend. Some believe they retreated to the farthest north, beyond the ice where no human can follow. Others say they walk among us still, hidden in the blood of certain families, their eyes flashing gold when the moon is full. And sometimes, in the cold silence before dawn, a lone howl rises from the edge of the forest. Not a wolf's, not a man's, something older. Something older, watching. Perhaps the Itbarak are gone, or perhaps they are simply waiting, guarding a wilder, older truth the world has forgotten. They say the living are not the only ones who wander beneath the moon. When the wind turns cold and the night grows too still, you may feel them near. Not with your eyes, not with your ears, but in the quiet space between your heartbeats. The Kormos are the wandering dead, souls that cannot let go. They drift through forests, across empty plains, along the banks of forgotten rivers. Some are searching for a home they no longer remember. Some are chasing the echo of a voice they once loved. And some simply walk because stopping would mean accepting the end. The Hortlak are different. They are the ones the earth could not keep. When the soil grows restless, when the roots twist like fingers, the Hortlak rise. Their forms are pale, as if carved from moonlight. Their eyes, deep and unblinking, carry the memory of the grave. But fear is not the only response they deserve. Not all the dead seek to harm. Some seek only a lantern's glow in the darkness. Some wish to hear their names spoken once more. Others long for the weight of a single tear shed in their memory. In the villages of the steppe, elders tell stories of nights when the Kormos gather. They appear at the edges of campfires, faces half hidden in the smoke. Children are told not to stare too long, lest they follow them into the mist. But the bravest among the old women will whisper, if you greet them with kindness, they will not take you. For centuries, people have left offerings at the crossroads. A crust of bread, a cup of milk, a pinch of salt. These gifts are not for the living, they are invitations for the silent ones to pass peacefully on their way. Sometimes the Kormos linger near the rivers. It is said they see their reflections there, not as they are, but as they once were. They stand in silence, watching the water ripple, waiting for the moment the image becomes whole again. That moment never comes. A Hortlak are most often seen on nights of heavy fog. They move slowly, like figures caught between waking and sleep. If they approach, do not run. Instead, lower your gaze and light a candle. Flame, they say, reminds them of hearths, of homes, of warmth. There are also tales of Kormos who protect travelers. A lonely rider, lost in the darkness, might see a pale figure ahead. The figure walks without turning, leading the rider toward the faint light of a village. When the rider arrives, the figure is gone, vanished, like dew at sunrise. The villagers will listen to the story and nod. That was one of our own, making sure you found your way. Yet there are those who speak of dangerous encounters. Hortlak, who knock on doors at midnight, asking to be let inside. If welcomed without care, they may stay for longer than one night. They may drain the warmth from the hearth, the laughter from the air, until the house itself forgets it was ever alive. The truth, as always, is tangled in shadow. The Kormos and Hortlak are neither entirely good nor entirely evil. They are echoes, reflections of what once was. And like all echoes, they fade when forgotten. So when you walk alone under a moonlit sky, and the air feels colder than it should, speak a name from your past. Light a candle if you have one. And remember that sometimes the dead only wish to know they are still part of the living world. For in that small act of remembrance, you may not only ease their wandering, but also, in some quiet way, ease your own. Not all spirits bring harm. Some bring mischief. And in the endless green of the oldest forests, mischief can be far more dangerous than malice. They say Archura lives where no axe has dared to fall, where the trees are so old, their roots remember the songs of the first rains, where sunlight filters down in broken, golden shards, and the air smells of pine, damp soil, and the sweet breath of flowers unseen. She is the forest's laughter, a rustle where no wind blows, a shadow that moves just out of sight. Her form is never the same. Sometimes she is a maiden, tall and glowing, her hair braided with wildflowers, and her eyes the color of moss after rain. Other times, she is a creature of bark and shadow, covered in moss and fungi, with limbs like twisted branches. She walks without sound. She speaks without words. And yet, the forest listens to her as if she were its queen. Those who come to the forest with greed in their hearts soon learn her tricks. Hunters chasing deer find themselves circling back to where they began. Lumberjacks hear the sound of rushing water and follow it for hours, only to find a dry clearing filled with laughing crows. And sometimes, travelers see a flicker of white in the shadows, a figure beckoning them deeper into the woods. Those who follow without thought are lost for days, or forever. Yet Archura is not cruel without reason. To those who respect the forest, she is a guide. If you leave a gift of honey at the foot of an ancient tree, or sing a song to the whispering leaves, she may appear at dusk, smiling. She will show you paths no map has ever known, clearings where the grass glows with fireflies, streams that sing as they flow, and trees whose leaves whisper secrets in a language older than man. Some say she can lead you to a hidden place where the forest keeps its heart, a grove that blooms in eternal spring, where the air is warm and the ground is soft with moss. But only the worthy ever return from there. Archura loves riddles. She loves games. And she loves to see the proud humbled. If you mock the forest, she will mock you back. Perhaps by tying your boots together when you sleep, or replacing your footprints with those of a bear. Small warnings to teach you respect. In the deepest silence of the woods, if you hear laughter and cannot find its source, you may be walking through Artura's domain. Tread lightly. Keep your heart free of greed. And remember, a gift given freely can open doors no human hand could ever carve. For in her forest, the path you take is never just the one beneath your feet. It is the one she chooses for you. To the Turkic soul, every place breathes. A mountain is not just rock, it listens. A river is not just water, it remembers. A fire is not just flame, it hungers. Every hill, every stream, every hearth holds a presence. These presences are the Ialer, the unseen guardians of balance. They are not gods, yet they are older than kings. They do not rule the world, but they keep it alive. High in the crags lives the dog Yesi, the mountain spirit. He watches the weather, commands the wind, and shelters the roots of the earth. Climbers who respect his slopes may find safe passage. Those who carve greedily into his stone may never return. In the glimmering currents dwells the Su Iesi, the water spirit. She can appear as a shimmering woman with hair of foam, or as a shadow beneath the waves, pulling the careless into her depths. She blesses those who keep her waters pure, but turns away from those who poison them. In the heart of the hearth dances the Od Iesi, the fire spirit. It is warmth in winter, a guardian of the home. Its flames tell stories and ward off darkness. But neglect the fire and the Od Iesi grows cold, leaving the house empty of joy. Even the smallest place, your home, has a spirit. The Akak Iesi, the hearth guardian. It listens to every word spoken by the flames. It keeps peace among family if honored with food and kindness. But insult it and quarrels will take root like weeds. The Ialer are not immortal in the way of gods. They live as long as they are remembered, respected, and given space to breathe. When forgotten, they fade. And when they fade, balance slips away. Travelers tell of nights when they forgot to greet the local Ie. Fires went out in the middle of storms. Water turned bitter without cause. Mountains swallowed paths that had been there the day before. But those who honor the Elir tell different tales. Of rivers that guided them to fish when they were starving. Of fires that never dimmed during the longest winter. Of mountains that shielded them from their enemies' eyes. Of children were taught small rituals, pouring the first sip of water into the earth for the Su Iesi, placing a stone back where it was found for the Da Iesi, refeeding the fire a scrap of bread for the Od Iesi. And always, before sleep, a whisper was offered. Em, don't leave. Protect my dreams. It was not prayer. It was a pact. Some say the Elirs still walk beside us, in the echo of a mountain breeze, in the flicker of a flame, in the shimmer of a wave at dusk. You cannot see them, but if the world feels warmer, safer, and alive around you, it may be because they are still here, watching, listening, waiting for your whisper.